This is going to be a different type of video. Now that Black Ops 7 has finally come to an end with Rex Infernus, I thought it'd be a while until we see more Treyarch Zombies content, so I thought I'd sit down and do a complete overview of the current state of modern zombies. I'm going to be keeping the visual cues for this one to a minimum, so feel free to throw this on in the background whilst you study, play your own game or do your own thing. Alternatively, you can grab some snacks and sit back and relax and watch some cursed Rogue Run gameplay. Ever since World at War in 2008, Call of Duty hasn't just been another side mode, it's been this atmospheric, mysterious survival horror experience that has brought together millions of players worldwide. Players spending endless nights training hordes, discovering lore, and fighting round after round with your friends, strangers and loved ones. But if you look at the community today, this once united fanbase who deeply loved the game has now split. On one hand, it offers the most accessible, smoothest movement and the most customization we've ever seen. But on the other hand, it feels like the game's having a massive identity crisis. It's no longer what it used to be, what we know to grow up with and what we used to love. It's been warped by these warzone mechanics. It's being forced to have multiplayer systems and it's been restricted by corporate having its hands all over it. And although they say otherwise, the way the game feels and looks tells a different story. This isn't just going to be another Zombies was better or back in my day kind of rant. Today I want to dissect modern zombies in its entirety. I want to talk about the most prevalent issues the community have with these games, being the menu or balancing or even handhelding. But I think it's also important that I go over some of the things that zombies do get right, because the things that they do right, they do really, really well. And I do think that giving credit where credit is due is just as important as calling them out on all the things that they do badly. And ultimately, I want the next project to be as successful as possible. I want zombies to continue for a long time, and I know Treyarch can fix these things. I just want the game to reach its potential that I know it can. So grab a drink, grab some snacks, subscribe, and let's get into it. The first place I wanted to start with this is the menus and UI. The decline of the atmosphere starts the very second you press that zombies button. I remember back in the day in Black Ops 1 and 2 where you would press that button and you'll be greeted with this eerie, spooky, ambient soundscape, whether that's a theme music in the lobby or you can hear these background sounds of zombies growling or scratches on a record. The atmospheric lobby environments are part of the experience, and modern zombies menus are near identical to multiplayer, and this isn't okay. You get this same sleek, tiled launcher, there is no ambience, there's no dedicated music, and the loading screens aren't great. There is no unique aesthetic identity to zombies anymore. Even when you come to navigating the game, it's an exercise of UI frustration. Instead of it being clean and intuitive, you're forced to navigate through fragmented submenus rather than having a clear unified selection screen or toggleable modifiers. It's been split into this multiplayer standard where you have all these different kinds of modes or temporary game modes, and none of it feels zombies. To get the standard experience that we used to know and love, you have to do several different Easter eggs just to get cursed survival or cursed mode with the relevant relics to get it back to how it used to be. I want my games to look like a game. When I'm navigating this UI, it feels more like I'm navigating a storefront. Everything is trying to flog some kind of wares, whether that be the battle pass or a unique event that has its own battle pass. Or in the store, they're trying to throw skins down your throat permanently. It doesn't feel like zombies and it doesn't feel like a playable experience. It's like you're navigating some shop. It doesn't feel like a game anymore. And then when you finally come to load into the map after all of the UI, it's lost its charm. You used to have these comic book scribbles of maybe the power system of how you turn on power, or you'll have a comic book strip of little segments of the storyline, and all of that is gone. So a thing that was started in World at War and followed through to BO3, BO4, it's been completely replaced by these static loading screens that feel like screenshots of the map that you're playing. And then when you're finally in the game, you then have a menu or a UI that is 90% fluff. You have medals flashing up on you, you have health bars, you have damage markers, you have point markers, you have score streak markers, you have if someone picks up something in the game, it flags up. There are so many different things. There's a compass, there's a mini-map. By standard, all of these things should be off, but they aren't. You can't escape that Warzone UI until you dig into the settings, and at launch they made this very awkward. I mean, at least now you can reduce the size of everything and you can choose what to turn on, what to turn off. But this should never have been the case in the first place. It's zombies, it's not Warzone, it's not multiplayer. The next thing I want to touch on is the early game. One of the foundational appeals of classic Zombies was the vulnerability at round 1. Every decision mattered. You spawned with a 1911 with a few bullets and you were forced to knife and shoot and buy weapons to try and survive. There was strategy behind it. But now in modern Zombies this has been completely flipped on its head. You spawn in as a walking tank with armor plates, a weapon loadout, a knife that one-shots for longer than 1 round, gobblegums, ether shroud, grenades, decoys. What you previously had to hit the box for was now standard. You spawned with it. You chose which weapon you want. And as of before, when you had 2 to 3 hit downs, it's now 8 hits. The difficulty is completely gone. And the friction doesn't just stop there. Because of these new Warzone type features where you have tier upgrades or rarity systems and multiple different pack-a-punches, it means you spawn in with a custom weapon that you chose and you invest everything throughout the entire game into that one gun. This locks you out of the mystery box, which had been an incentive to gamble, and one of the reasons why you'd play Zombies, because it was so unexpected. You never knew what you were going to get. Not only this, but the combat balance is further warped by the equipment. Having ether shroud and decoy grenades and shock charges and anything else that gives you a massive window of invulnerability. They are get out of jail free cards. You spawn in with them in round 1 and you cannot die if you use them. The sense of danger that you used to have doesn't exist anymore, and it really warps the gameplay. Now cursed mode does fix these problems. You don't spawn in with any of this. You spawn in with a pistol, you have the classic point system. It solves some of the issues but not all of them. You still have the rarity, you still have the multiple pack-a-punches. And although Curse Mode does bring back kind of the default mode that you used to know and love, Curse Mode isn't sold as the default. Standard is the default. And I think that if Cursed was the standard and was the default and they pushed that from the get-go, more players would give this game a go. It doesn't just end with early game, it's also in the higher rounds. You have this really aggressive proximity spawn. Whether you're a high round player who loves training zombies, the modern mechanics make this a complete nightmare. In classic Zombies you'd be able to board up windows, or you could filter specifically by running specific routes. But in these new games they don't exist anymore, not as they would before. In modern Zombies you can turn around and a zombie behind you will despawn to purposely spawn up your arse. You could be sprinting directly towards a barrier or towards a door and a zombie will spawn on the opposite side of it expecting you to come through. The game actively puts you into this situation where you can't run traditional routes like you're used to. You get put in these artificial boxings where you have to smoke crack and clench your cheeks to try and weave through even the most open areas. And it's made infinitely worse by how damage and health and movement scale in the higher rounds. In early rounds, when the zombies are slow, you have 8 hits before going down. But then in the higher rounds, a zombie can take all of your armor and 90% of your health in one hit. They move faster than you. You rely on this armor plate system that shouldn't be in the game in the first place, and it's only a band-aid. The balancing is completely broken from round 50 plus. They're hyper fast 2-hit, materializing out of nowhere with movement mechanics that also break the game. It strips away that survival skill. Players have been left with no choice. If they want those high rounds, they have to use these unintended exploits to try and survive. Now this would be fine. Then you have this new pack-a-punch system and the rarity system that doesn't help with this scaling either. You get sold this artificial ultra rarity tier 4 pack-a-punch when in reality they're just an artificial band-aid. You have to spend all these points and scrap and everything else and salvage to try and make your gun better, but it's only temporary. In fact, you're in the same situation you were with tier 3 and legendary just 5 rounds later. Because the zombies exponentially increase in difficulty, it makes these upgrades, I mean, they're nullified. They don't help in the slightest. And sure, health scaling and difficulty was in the older games. I mean, you can play buried and do the Easter eggs, and you do like round 999 zombies, you won't even tickle them. They will slap you into oblivion, but that's okay. After round 100 is where you get into ultra rounds. But the cutoff point should be round, 35, 40, as that's where I feel Zombies is at its best. In those rounds there is a nice balance between you having a maxed out weapon, the zombies doing a decent amount of damage and speed and everything else. They feel really good for those 10, 15 rounds, and then post 50 it just gets ridiculous. Like, it doesn't feel like they play tested beyond that point. And even if you argue that it's supposed to be difficult and whatever else, I somewhat agree with you. But then you also have the technical restrictions and online demands that this game has, so that if you're doing a really high run, everything is online. You could be playing a really high run for 6 hours, and for some reason you get booted from a server, and all of that is completely lost. Now in solo they kind of fix this issue by having a pause timer, or you can save and quit, and they are unbelievably great features. But honestly, the fact that you can be doing a solo experience and get booted because the Wi-Fi goes or anything else in a £60 game that you cannot play without a connection is ridiculous. Now, it's not all bad, but it's bad enough. 300GB game that requires you to be online all the time, and it requires you to stream textures. How can a game be 300GB and stream textures? It doesn't make sense. You go back and play Black Ops 3, Black Ops 2, and although you had to be online for a lot of it, the games weren't 300GB, and you didn't have to stream textures, and you didn't have to do this, and you didn't have to do that. It's all ridiculous. Now, the save and quit feature on the other hand, I love it. The pause timer in multiplayer lobbies, I love that. I don't think there's a better feeling than being on round 50 and having a toilet break. It's one of the most glorious things I've ever experienced in my long career of playing zombies. But they don't outweigh the other issues that the game has. To be honest with you, I could go all day about some of the criticisms that I have in this game, but I think the last thing I want to touch on is visuals and audio. Visually, this game is supposed to look great. It's 300GB, it's full 4K resolution, whatever. But it was found out in the settings that in the colorblind profiles, you can find a vivid profile that affects the entire game. I only just found out about this recently, post the final map launching. I found out through a streamer clip on TikTok, and it's frustrating because the game genuinely looks better with this profile on. I understand that some people don't like the vivid profiles or they prefer higher contrast, etc. But this should be a setting that decided when you first launch the game. When you're changing your brightness at the very start, there should be this visual profile. It doesn't make sense for there not to be. Not just that, but they missed the ambient music. The music tracks are different. The audio, there are things that are missing that should be there. The fire sales song. The Warden's announcer doesn't even sound like the Warden, as a few things an example. And finally, things like Curse Mode. Curse Mode is incredible for hardcore old fans. But even this had its oversights. The mode launched without public matchmaking, and although a lot of people don't use it, there are those that do. New weapons weren't being integrated into the box pool for Curse Mode. The save and quit feature would sometimes break when there was relics activated, where you'd reload and it would ruin a high level run. And those things are just not acceptable for a core gameplay mechanic. There's also the major thing about perks. There has only been one recent perk that is actually new, and that's Whipped Tea. While I'm grateful that Double Tap made its return and Widow's Wine has come back, the only new perk is Whipped Tea, and that, although it's good, the rest of the perks that they brought back, they stripped it back so that they could add augments to make it what it used to be. Widow's Wine, for example, it used to be it changed your grenades to like sticky grenades that shoot out webs. This doesn't work anymore because you have the customization to have different grenades. But there's no reason why they couldn't have just kept it the same. Who cares if a Semtex has a webbing feature? Who cares if a C4 has a webbing feature? They should have kept it the same and it still used your lethal equipment. It doesn't make sense to change it when fundamentally that was the entire purpose of the perk. It was one of my favourite perks and they completely ruined it. And instead of choosing from this vast landscape of custom perks where there's like hundreds of perks out there, or Black Ops 3 they could have chose from, no, let's add death perception to the game. Who the fuck decided to add death perception? Most of its features are minimap related, and in Curse Mode you don't even have a minimap. It makes no sense, it's a useless perk. They even force you to buy it for Easter eggs because no one will buy it otherwise. And to top it all off, you launch this game after a new update and it has to restart because you've had a new update, and then you launch it again and it crashes, and then you launch it again and there's some kind of error, and then you finally get it to fully work and you get a battle pass thrown down your neck. You then have some custom event that they're running that you also have to pay a different battle pass for to try and get these skins that no one asked for and no one wanted. All of this with a dropping player count because Treyarch, I guess it's not really Treyarch that's doing this, I imagine corporate is doing the majority of it. They're using these malicious sales tactics of throwing things in your face and hoping you accidentally click it with your bank account. It's money grabbing that is unacceptable for a £60 game. And honestly, it's one of the worst things that I hate about this game is the fact that they try and take your money every second you have it open. Now I want to talk about all the good stuff because I've got all the bad stuff out of the way and I can actually discuss what the games do well. And I'm absolutely going to give a lot of credit to this game because they do a lot of stuff well. It's not a bad game. Treyarch delivered some of the absolute best features of all time in this franchise. And I think it's vital to recognise these small wins, such as the customization. Whether you love it or hate it, a HUD has so many presets, colorways, and having it so curse mode has different HUDs and you can activate and deactivate things. Although I don't like the initial look of the HUD, for Easter eggs, the map and compass do help. When you're following a guide, these small things do help, and being able to turn them off is great. Curse mode, having everything deactivated by default, is how it should have been initially. Like I was saying before, if that was the default that they were advertising all the time, a lot of people would give this more of a go, because it doesn't look like some mobile game with so many different elements being thrown in your face all the time. Then you have the narrative, the atmosphere, the crew, the sound. Shooting a weapon sounds really, really good. It almost echoes. The weapon pool of having so many different DLC weapons is great. They brought back the classic quick revive jingle. I think they made some alterations to it because it sounds slightly different, but it still hits the same. You've got all these different characters. I mean, there's kind of 8 people in the current crew. You've got the 4 Primus lot, and then you've got these modern 4 that was from Cold War, I think. And these characters interact with each other and they have personality between each other, and they are solid game or characters for this game. And it makes sense. The quality of life and the gameplay actually is great. The save and quit, like I've been saying, is absolutely unbelievable. Being able to have the Raygun Mark 1 and Mark 2 in the box at launch, that is great. Free DLC is the best thing that they've ever introduced. It means you can play with your friends as long as they have the game, and having the game on Game Pass means that most people have the game. Back in the day when you had Buried and someone else didn't and you wouldn't be able to play a map, it was so frustrating, but now because everyone has all the maps, it's great accessibility. Having director mode to introduce new players to these Easter eggs that are convoluted or complex is a great feature. It is unbelievably good. There has been temporary game modes that they have created, like Jingle Hells. This is one of the game modes that they have made, and to be honest, I think it should be made permanent, but they haven't because I imagine it takes server space. I will never complain about more content. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Having Curse mode, Survival mode, Rogue runs, Jingle Hells, Standard modes, all the different kind of maps, everything, Starting Room Challenge, these game modes, they all bring accessibility and it makes the game last longer. And then finally, the biggest thing of all is, despite all of the issues that it does have, the environment and the level design of these new maps honestly are incredible. There's a lot that they do wrong, but the map aesthetics and the map design, not so much. I mean, the newest map is it's a bit arguable, but it's fine. The map flows good. They are solid. I mean, whether you're in, the dank, dark ashes of the damned, or you're back in Takio's home castle on the side of a volcano with a fucking dragon, the maps have been so cool. And if they were in the older games, they would have been unbelievably successful. Now, I do feel there is some kind of small little something missing from the golden era of Zombies. I don't know what it is, I can't describe it, but there is something missing. But the aesthetics, the layout, the scale, the detail, the uniqueness are done absolutely phenomenally well. There is also praise for the wonder weapons. I've never felt like I was having more fun with these wonder weapons. The Necrofluid Gauntlet is one of the best wonder weapons I've ever used in my entire life. It's fun. It's got multiple different attacks. It has a melee. It looks sick. Then you have like the little UFO one on Astra Malorum. This again looks sick. I cannot knock them for the wonder weapons, although I wish you could get them in the damn box. Such a stupid restriction, and I think that they definitely missed out on doing an elemental variant on the final map. The fact there was 4 temples that had each elemental kind of versions. It was an oversight that they didn't make the wonder weapon a 4-way elemental weapon, but all the same, all the weapons have been absolutely incredible. The wonder weapons have been unique, they've been fun, visually look great, they're versatile, and honestly every single one has been a major win. Whilst I could keep talking about the good things, the bad things, everything else, I think that the main important ones are how they can go about fixing it. I've looked at the flaws and I've looked at the wins. Now where do we go from here? Now I've got a few suggestions that can kind of bridge the gap between the old classic experience and this new experience that they want us to have. The first one is beyond mechanics and everything else. When you first press that game, Zombies needs to feel like Zombies. It's its own entity. I only play COD games for the zombies. I would not buy a COD game without zombies. I don't enjoy the multiplayer anymore, ever since Warzone. I don't like Warzone. I only play it really for the zombies. I even played the campaign of this game and it was shocking. The zombies I came back for time after time. The lobby screens need to ditch that flat bullshit and bring back the immersive environment that you used to have. There's no reason why they can't have a zombie related backdrop. Black Ops 3, they sat on a bench with zombies wandering around. It wasn't much, but it looked great and it set the tone. They need to reduce the interface and make it cleaner. Maybe they could have top down categories with round based, limited time modes, survivals and dead op. And within those you can have cursed and standard, but push cursed first and label standard as casual or new player friendly options, because cursed should be at the forefront, as that is what every single older Call of Duty experience has been like. It shouldn't be buried as an alternative somewhere else in a sub menu when that is what people play the game for. Now this is going to be a bit of a controversial take, because I know that a lot of people do love the old crew. Now I feel that the narrative and direction needs to go in a different route. The new maps themselves have been absolutely incredible. The scale, uniqueness and everything else, even the zombie models have been great. But there's something missing from them, and I think a start is definitely the story. Now whilst I'm not a massive story geek, I do feel like the story has become bloated and broken. They keep pushing this nostalgia bait and we're drowning in this endless multiverse, fragmented timeline or rehashed plots of the exact same story. There is this emotional disconnect from the game that we're playing compared to the old one. As much as I love Primus and Ultimus and Dempsey, Takio, Nikolai, Richtofen, I absolutely love them to pieces, but their story finished. There's no need to keep bringing them back. Every single time they bring them back, it dilutes their original story. It makes the lore into a complete mess where you have no idea where you are. And I think it's just time to start fresh. Give us a new cast. Give us new characters with deep connections, with different voices, with better personalities, and have them have connections to the maps that we're going to play. Give us something that we can learn to love again. We learned to love Primus and Ultimus, and we can learn to love these new characters. There's no reason why we can't. If we can manage to make some new crew with some new stories, with some new maps, I think it will definitely start to regain its soul that many people have suggested that it's lost. The next alteration I think is a major one. The loadout thing needs balancing. Bad. If they pushed Cursed as the mainstream experience, they don't need to do anything with the loadouts, because you start out with a pistol and you start out with nothing. That's great, that's exactly what you want. If they need and they insist to do this loadout kind of maneuver, they need to pull away from it, because people aren't hitting the box, people aren't buying war weapons, they are solely investing in the one weapon that they have. Put the wonder weapons back in the box. It might actually indirectly encourage people to do Easter eggs, because one of the requirements on every single map has been the fact that you have to build the wonder weapon. And whilst I love building wonder weapons, have them both. I don't think you need the wonder weapon for an Easter egg and then not make it buildable. That's not the answer. That is even worse than the alternative. You need to be able to build it. You just also need to have it in the box. A lot of the times I can't be bothered to do an Easter egg if I have to make a wonder weapon that's got 50 steps to it. I will ultimately do it because I'm a sucker. But it's a PvE game mode. No one cares if a wonder weapon's OP or if everyone's got them. It doesn't need to be balanced. It needs to be fun. And on that note, I think we just strip out all the Warzone mechanics as it is. Take the armor plates out. For the love of God, take the armor plates out. Bring the survivability back to the classic perks as it was originally intended. We had shields on our backs. We had Juggernog to keep us with a larger health pool. There was no need to bring armor plates in the first place. It was a band-aid for a problem that they caused. Revert back the scaling to the initial scale that the initial perks had balanced with. And that will at least somewhat fix some of the issues of high round and low round bullshit. As it is in Cursed, make the point system back to the old one. That was the absolute heart of Zombies. That kept the pacing exactly how it needed to be. You had to choose where you spend points. You had to use the right weapons. It wasn't the fact that no weapons, like there were some weapons that you didn't use at all. It was the fact that you had to be strategic. You had to use one of your 2 weapon slots if you didn't have like Mule Kit to have a point weapon. It was strategic and that was enjoyable. There's also no reason why the new point system makes it so that perks cost 5,000 to go. Why the hell am I buying a useless perk like Death Perception? It's costing me like 6,000 or 7,000. It's nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. Even for casual players, that doesn't make sense. It's an inflated cost to force you to play longer. It's silly. And finally, I think like a massive big change they need to do is the augment bullshit. Why do I need to basically do half a prestige or entire prestige just to unlock the augments for one thing? There is so many perks, there are ammo mods, and you have to do like a prestige per thing to get it maxed out, or some BS like that. I can't remember how much XP it is, but it's an absurd amount, like it's a few million or something. And that's just not fair for new players. If I started playing tomorrow, there is no chance in hell I'm ever going to get that. It doesn't make sense. Draw it back. Personally, I think it should operate like Cold War did, where you get a currency for doing every 10 rounds, and you spend that currency to level up a perk or level up an ammo mod, because that's a lot more accessible. You don't regret it as much because you're not spending as much time doing one thing. Make it refundable, and then if there's a perk that you've made a mistake on and you bought it wrong, you can rebalance it. You can take those points out and put them in something else that will help you survive longer. Giving the players freedom to build strategically over a period of time is much better than forcing people to play a game that they don't want to play just to try and get these augments to try and make the game playable. The Vulture Aid augment that allows you to put on armor plates just to ignore a feature that shouldn't be there in the first place, and it was near the end. I had farmed like 30 hours or something just to get that augment. That's probably an inflated figure, but still, I farmed for this augment just so I can ignore one of the systems that they forced upon me. So I think making it more roguelike, slightly combining the Cold War system with the new augment, have it so you select 1 or 2 augments that you unlock through a Cold War type currency for doing 5 or 10 rounds, blah blah blah. Only one currency though. The Cold War having multiple currencies that you have to do Outbreak or whatever for, that's bollocks, get rid of that. And finally, we're into the conclusion of this game. This kind of overview. Now I know I said a lot more bad things than good things, but I think it's definitely easier to remember the bad than it is to focus on the good. But ultimately the game is great. I will always support the game. There's a lot that it does wrong, but there's a lot it does right, and honestly I don't regret the time that I spent in that game at all. Now I think Call of Duty Zombies stands at a crossroads. The passion from the community and developers is obviously there. We can see that it's there in curse mode. We can see that it's there in the maps. We can see it's in there by the way that the characters interact with the maps and the voice lines they have between each other. There's just a lot of crap that buries it. The community never asked for a lot of these things, and it's been an issue for years. I think Treyarch just needs to listen a little bit more and stop being offended when the community call them out on stuff that they didn't want and they didn't ask for. Now obviously no one wishes for the downfall of Treyarch or Zombies. Everyone wants Zombies to continue. I think Treyarch needs to embrace the feedback. They need to get rid of the crap, restore the old good things that worked for years after years. I think Zombies can thrive. I think it will enter a new golden age if they just listen, if they just playtest, if they have enough people come in and give them criticism and they actually act upon it. The community has had 15 years of experience playing these games, enjoying these games. I think the community know what they want. Now, I want this to succeed as much as the next person. I don't want this game to end. I want a standalone zombie experience personally, and I know it's an extremely long road to get there. But I believe in this game mode, and I believe in the potential it holds, and honestly I hope to God that things do change. Because if they don't, I fear how long it's got left. The community will not stick around if they're not abiding to what the community want. Don't force battle passes down the community's neck. It's got nothing to do with zombies. Don't do malicious marketing that has absolutely no impact on gameplay. Why are you forcing me to buy a skin when I don't need it and I don't want it? Now with that completely over, I hope Zombies improves. Thank you so much for watching. What do you guys think about modern zombies? What do you look forward to? What do you want to change? If you enjoy this video, subscribe, stay safe out there. Don't forget to like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.